When you have both the purchase orders module and the sales order module for CenterPoint, it allows you to create purchase orders directly from the sales order. This is needed sometimes when a customer special orders an item or orders items that you don't have in stock right now. This process saves you time over having to manually enter the purchase order. Before we get into the demonstration of this, I want to bring up the setup of your sales and inventory items. So I'm going to either go to setup in sales and then items, or setup in inventory and items. On an item that is an inventory item, I'm going to edit it. There is a purchase information tab, and the creating of the purchase order will use some information from this tab. So there is a place where you can enter in vendor information. And then you could select one of those vendors as the preferred vendor. And that's going to be the vendor that gets defaulted to this new purchase order. So it can be overwritten, but it's going to use that vendor. And if this is blank, then that information will just be blank, and you'll have to select that when the purchase order gets created. For that item too, it will also use the last cost. And just keep in mind, if it gets ordered for a location that doesn't have a last cost, like the one that I'm going to enter in is for the Illinois store that doesn't have a last cost, you're going to have to manually enter in that information. Okay, so it is pulling the information from that. Now, on a non-tracked item, we don't have that same tab. That tab is grayed out, so it's not able to pull that information. So you would have to manually enter in that information for any non-tracked items. Okay, to create that sales order, we're going to either go to processes in sales and either sales order or sales order quick entry. I'm going to choose quick entry, and we're going to put in a sales order for my customer, Twin Lakes. So as you can see off camera, I went ahead and filled this in. Now, the sales order can include both inventory items and non-tracked. Mine just happens to have just inventory items on it. For each of these inventory items, when I highlight it in my information grid down here, you can see that I don't have those in stock, so it's going to create a negative quantity. So I'm going to need to create this purchase order for it. These are also for my Illinois store, where I don't typically order these items for, so I may not have a last cost on them. So I just want to point that out. So at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and create the purchase order. And when I do that, it's actually going to tell me it's going to save the sales order. So if it's marked to print or email, it'll go ahead and do that at this point. So I'm going to say yes, and we're going to go ahead and create the purchase order. So it's going to bring in the next purchase order number and then the date. And then down below, you're going to notice each of the items that was listed on the sales order is going to be showing if they're inventory items. If they're not inventory items, if there were any non-tracked or service items on the sales order and you want to add them to this purchase order, you could check the box here to add them to the purchase order. Okay, if there was a vendor selected on any of those items, then you could, the vendor will be shown on the grid. Okay, you can override that, so you can select another vendor on that field. If it's blank and you want to use the same vendor for all of the lines, you could fill it into the default vendor field. Okay, the default vendor field is also used if you want to overwrite the vendors on the individual lines and create a single purchase order for all of the items to a specific vendor. You would select that vendor in the default vendor field and then click the Create Single Purchase Order for a default vendor. Okay, for each of these, for both of the purchase orders that are going to get created, mine are going to go to two separate vendors. For each of them that get created, where do I want them delivered? Do I want them delivered to the company address? Do I want to drop ship them to the customer? Do I want to enter in a manually entered address by choosing the other option? Or do I want to send them to one of my inventory locations by choosing inventory location and then choosing the inventory location that I want to send them to? I'm going to send them to my customer. Okay, now remember, I don't normally order these for my Illinois store, so I want to make sure that I check the unit cost, that I actually do have the unit cost in there. And I don't, so I'm going to manually enter in the unit cost for these. Okay, If I want to print out this, then I can go ahead and select that I could print the purchase order, what form I want to use, and what printer I want it to go to. And then I can click create purchase orders. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, if the vendors selected were set up so that they were going to get emailed the purchase order, it would go ahead and email them the purchase order as well. So I'm going to click create purchase orders and then click OK. And if I need to make any changes to those purchase orders, I can do that by going to Processes, Purchase, and Purchase Orders Maintenance, where I will be able to see each of those purchase orders, and I can highlight them and edit them and make whatever changes I need to them.